Jane Eyre review. It's been a while, hasn't it? These are my thoughts on the autobiography of Jane Eyre, which is a web series that aired right here on YouTube. From what I can see, a bunch of YouTube adaptations of classic novels popped up around this time. I think that it started with the Lizzie Bennet diaries, which were very successful. They all use this viewer interactive mode of having the characters speak directly to the camera, as well as to each other. In the case of the autobiography of Jane Eyre, Jane is inspired by what she sees Lizzie Bennet doing, and she starts vlogging as a way to help her process her feelings and her thoughts, especially as she's embarking on a new job. As far as these modernized classics turned web series go, some of them work, some of them don't. I personally have had a little difficulty suspending reality enough to feel like I'm watching a real-life drama unfolding. It's clearly the intent, having these characters portrayed as if they are real people and they interact with their audience and everything. And I can see by a lot of the comments that other people are able to suspend reality and interact with the character, and it works for them. When I first discovered the idea, and I think the Jane Eyre one was the first one that I found, I was really excited. I was like, hey, this is cool, this is new and fresh, and it's gonna be really interesting to see how they update some things and what they do with this medium. I didn't watch it from the beginning. I kind of skipped around looking for certain scenes and watched those, and I thought, this is a cool idea and it's creatively executed. But then I got distracted, and by distracted I mean I found out about the Lizzie Bennet diaries and went and watched them instead. Sorry, Jane Eyre. And then it took me forever to get back to Jane Eyre, and then another forever to finish it. So what did I think? The short version you've pretty much already heard, so if that was all you needed to know, then you can just move on. Thanks for watching. The long version is going to be a little bit more, well, this is something they did that I liked, and yet this is something that I thought wasn't so good. So, let's start with Jane. Jane communicates a lot about herself and her relatives through her very inability to communicate and her unwillingness to talk about things. And that is very interesting. She speaks wisely. She is obviously more introspective than a lot of other people. They kept the spiritual aspect of the story, at least in the beginning, with the backstory of Helen and the lesson on forgiveness. But I felt that later on, Jane she got a little bit too dull and depressing. I sound like a terrible, cold-hearted individual, but the thing is, if these were real problems and this was a real person, I would be more sympathetic. If this person was just opening up her heart on the internet. But let's be honest, this is an actress playing the part of Jane Eyre, and the way that they wrote her, she becomes more of an emotional mess. And she has an increasing tendency towards self-pity, and that just makes the show drag. Jane, to me, has her own special sparkle, and I just felt a lack of it here. Not all the time. When she wasn't depressing, she was likable and relatable. She's camera shy, and she's always trying to figure out how to wear her hair for the video, and she's got social awkwardness, and she keeps practicing saying hello. I understand that. I spend at least the first 5 minutes of every one of these videos trying to decide how I want to greet you. Do I want to say, hey, hello, hi? Do I want my voice level to be up here and really enthusiastic and bubbly and high? Or do I want it to be a little bit more low and sedate? And yeah, I mess with my hair, and I mess with the lighting. Being a YouTuber is really hard stuff, and to see someone else fidgeting with all that is fun. I connect with that. I do wonder, though, if there's too much social awkwardness. I don't ever picture the book Jane Eyre as being awkward or adorkable, yet the vlog goes out of its way to show just how awkward she is. This version, or maybe it's the actress, really emphasizes her struggle to put words together, especially when she's upset. And I don't know, Book Jane was never at a loss for words. She was always prompt with a response. She wasn't struggling to think things out, even as she said them. One thing I liked was the horror movie feel in a couple of episodes. I thought that the fire scene conversion was pretty good, and the Bertha character's visit was extra creepy, just because of the way that they gave it a found footage feel, kind of, and I was wondering how they were possibly going to do all that stuff, and it worked. It was different than the tone of the rest of the thing, but I enjoyed those parts. Here's a negative, though. I felt like there was a lot of awkwardness. First of all, the acting was a little rusty. Rochester was the biggest weakness, I thought, although he did improve for a while partway through, but there were just a couple scenes where he was obviously reading off the script. And the script, for another thing, there were many lines and terms that were included right from the book, and that's the kind of thing that make the purists get all excited, myself included, but they don't always fit. Some of them just seemed plopped in there, and then there was some other dialogue that was original to this that was missing some natural, logical flow. Supporting characters, especially Joanna, Liz, Mary, and Diana, they were fun and they were interesting, and as the show goes on, Jane badly needs someone to interact with to keep the show from falling into an introspective abyss. I did kind of wonder if sometimes the supporting characters weren't a little bit too silly, and if their antics were maybe too ill-fitting with the overall dark, depressed mood of the entire series. Regardless, they were not exact facsimiles of the original characters. It made it surprising. Talk about surprising, the St. John character, who is actually called Simon in this was the most unique St. John character I've ever seen. He is smart and serious, as you would expect, but there is a lot of appeal in his personality, occasionally. He was actually involved in several of the show's funniest moments, which is just so bizarre. He was kind of cute in a hobbitish way, and at one point I was totally okay with Jane ending up with him. And then, I don't know what happened. It's like someone else came in and took over the writing for his character, because he makes this abrupt turnaround from nice guy to villainous jerk, and he chews her out for being irresponsible and dramatic and indecisive, and it was just like, who is this guy? There wasn't a precedent for this. In the book and in other adaptations, there's a precedent for how he reacts when he makes the proposal to go away with him and to marry him. And in this, it was so odd. It was like they kept on swinging from one extreme to another. He's so nice and likable, and then he's so repugnant, and then 2 videos later, there's a video where the two of them are just sitting there talking, and it's all amicable, and there's not 1, but 2 almost kisses between them. What? So, yeah, that was a bit of a problem. Back on the positive side, Adele, who, what can you do with Adele? I've seen Adele portrayed as bratty and silly and stupid. I've seen Adele portrayed as a lonely, forgotten little girl, and this adaptation really just went their own direction with her. She's very smart, she's very creative, she's very well spoken, and it was very different. And then I think the best thing that they did with the Adele character was that at the end, where so often she is left out of the picture and it's just about Jane and Rochester reuniting, she has an entire episode all to herself that showcases her maturity and her development. They did change some things about her character. Rochester is indisputably her father, and the Bertha character is her mother, and it gives her more depth as she is reacting to finding out all these things about her past and wondering what's going to happen in the future, and it was really pleasantly surprising. What was not pleasantly surprising, though, was the ending of the entire web series. This was the worst Jane and Rochester reunion, because the Rochester actor either didn't want to do it anymore, or he was no longer available, whatever. They had to use someone else to stand in his place, and they had to film them from a distance, and so it's fuzzy, and it's just them standing over there talking or whatever they're doing. You can't really tell because you can't hear anything. There's just this white noise, and it's like that for several minutes. The way it ends, I don't even know if she's still in a relationship with Rochester. Are they back together, or is she just going and visiting? Are they friends? Like, is she living there with them? Like, what is happening? I know that they had to madly scramble to figure out what are we going to do without that actor, but it just ended up being... You lost a lot of the emotional impact that you have from the original reunion scene. I'm sorry about how long this video is. I don't like to do long videos, but there are actually 2 more negatives that I should really cover because they're big issues that I had. And, well, you know, this is a long web series, several hours of video, and so it's a lot to talk about. The first of the 2 final negatives is kind of hearkening back to what I said about not being able to suspend my disbelief, and that is that the attempt to be realistic in video publishing didn't hold up. Exhibit A, Rochester's Thornfield Industries party scene. What company would post such an unprofessional video on their website? Exhibit B, Jane's crisis of conscience. She freaks out about the content of her videos breaching privacy and potentially being slanderous to Rochester and to his company when someone finds her out. But then in the next video, it's the Mason video, and it has blood and Rochester being strange, and there's a lot of sketchy weirdness. And it's like, so all that stuff that you were freaking out about, breach of privacy and everything, you just threw that out the window and decided, whatever, I'm just gonna post anything about these people. Exhibit C, Rochester okays the videos because he says they will remind people of how smart she is. That's not professional. This is your company, your livelihood, your estate, everything that's at stake. And really, for me, the reality of the whole thing breaks down when I realized that I wouldn't have respect for a person who aired this kind of private footage on the internet. Footage that involves another party without their consent. Maybe I'm overthinking it, and I should have just turned my brain off and been like, it's a show, it doesn't matter. But it presents itself as reality, and I couldn't help it. I make videos, I put myself on the internet, I have to think about these things. And the other final big negative that I had with this production is the modernization. Some updates worked, but more didn't. Exhibit A, Rochester's proposal. This was not a marriage proposal, it's just you wear this promise ring and we'll have a reception to celebrate. It's still an intense proposal, and they still call it a wedding, and there are still invitations, and there's gifts, and there's a gown, and I'm sorry, it was just weird. Exhibit B, Rochester's confession. Rochester's wife is in a secret ward in the house, and she has drinking, drug, and depression problems. He excuses his behavior by saying he hasn't felt married in years, and when Jane came along, he wanted to get a divorce, but it would take too long. Too long? I know that divorce proceedings are complicated and they do take a long time, but come on. That whole explanation just irritated me, but not as much as Exhibit C, how Jane responds. Even as Jane says to Rochester that she cannot stay, she caresses him, she kisses his shoulder, she tells him I love you at least 4 times. She nuzzles him, and she kisses him, and says, we'll be fine. Verbally, she tells him that he was doing wrong, and she's way calmer about it than I would be. I'd be hopping mad. But physically, she's not delivering the same message by touching him, and it's like almost giving him affirmation, and being like, I'm still here, I still love you, I'm still gonna... Like, one of the things that I so admired about Jane in the book is that as soon as the situation changes, she makes the resolve and she sticks with it, and, you know, she absolutely refuses to let him touch her and kiss her, and she refuses to respond and to accept those tokens of affection, and she is just so morally strong and it's admirable, and to see this Jane responding this way, it was weak, and it was Exhibit D, Simon's proposal. I was wondering how they were gonna do this and how they were gonna make it work in a modern setting. And what they did was they had him say, we have to get a marriage license to guarantee that our group will locate us in the same city and have us work together. So to ensure that we have to get married, and it'll just be a license, and, you know, we'll get it annulled as soon as we come back. I don't know. It seemed lame. I guess now that I'm revisiting my feelings and my reactions, I didn't really care for it that much. I suspect that that's largely a matter of taste. There were just a lot of things that I could not get over or I could not get into, and that might not be the case for everybody. I know from glancing through the comments on the episodes that a lot of people were into it, and a lot of people liked it and didn't have any of these problems with it, so I think it just wasn't for me. And so now we know. If you made it through that entire video, congratulations! You're amazing. Thanks for watching. Bye!